Welcome to Concept Craft. We are presenting step-by-step videos training to crack your certification exam, so you can gain the confidence to take on any accounting challenge. Now let's begin our today's lesson. Vendor prepayments and deposits. Learning outcomes. In this lesson, we'll cover handling vendor prepayments and deposits in QuickBooks Online. Topics: tracking vendor prepayments, using accounts payable to record a prepayment, using an other current asset OCA account, recording a vendor prepayment without altering the bill amount, reconciling and running reports. Keep track of deposits. Clients might need to pay deposits or prepayments to vendors before receiving goods or services. Just as with the retainers they ask their customers for, clients need to follow a well-defined workflow with these prepayments to keep the books accurate. A common error that clients make is to enter the bill for the total amount before products are received or services performed. This is particularly a problem when tracking inventory because the inventory has not yet been received. How can you and QuickBooks Online help? Clients can use accounts payable or an asset account to track their payments and run reports in QuickBooks Online. We'll look at both of these options in this lesson. As a pro advisor, you can help your clients record prepayments to vendors correctly. Methods for tracking vendor prepayments. Clients often must make prepayments to vendors for items purchased. Examples of this might be where interior decorators need to prepay for furniture for their customers, or where contractors need to pay a deposit to one of their large subcontractors. In these instances, your client has to pay a retainer, which is a prepayment from their side. These payments may be called a retainer, deposit, prepayment, or similar term, but we'll refer to them as prepayments during this training. We are discussing money paid out in advance of the services being performed or products being purchased, in other words, prepaid expenses. There are two options for entering prepayments to vendors in QuickBooks Online. When determining which is the best method, consider the following factors: whether financial statements are needed, for example, for investors, how often the client pays vendor prepayments, and how much they are, how much time will pass between paying the vendor prepayments and the work being done or products delivered, the total value of combined vendor prepayments at year-end. Select each heading to find out more. Using accounts payable. Use other current asset account. Using accounts payable. This approach is similar to receiving payments against accounts receivable, which you learned about in the customer prepayments and deposits lesson. It requires no setup. This method follows the normal workflow, which may be easier for some clients who enter the transactions as opposed to the accountant or bookkeeper doing it. Follow these steps to use accounts payable to record and apply prepayment. Enter the prepayment by creating an expense, bill, or check transaction, then enter the accounts payable in the grid section. This creates a negative payable. When the bill, for which the prepayment should apply, comes in, enter the bill for the total amount. Pay the bill. When you check the bill, the credit will be applied if automatically apply bill payments is selected in account and settings. If you are not fully applying the credit, change it to the appropriate amount. If you are applying the credit but not paying the remainder of the bill, clear the payment amount. Note that this method doesn't conform to generally accepted accounting principles because it doesn't use a vendor prepayments asset account. Just as on the accounts receivable side, at year-end, the accountant should make a journal entry to reclassify the debit balance for prepayments from accounts payable to a prepaid expenses asset account. Then a reversing journal entry should be entered on the first day of the new year. Instead of creating a multi-line journal entry for multiple vendors that have negative accounts payable, you may want to set up a vendor called accounts payable adjustment and use that on the journal entry and reversing entry. When should clients use this method? The accounts payable option may be acceptable if the small business uses reports for management purposes only, that is, not provided to a third party, or when the total amount of prepayments is not a material amount. This method is best when clients only pay vendor prepayments occasionally. They can also use this method if there's a short time between the vendor prepayment and the delivery of goods and services. Use other current asset account. Another way to track vendor prepayments is to enter a check/expense or create a bill and record it to an other current asset (OCA) account, generally called vendor prepayments, increasing the balance until you are ready to pay the final bill. Create another current assets account for vendor prepayments. Enter a check or an expense to a vendor and post to the vendor prepayments asset account in the category detail grid. When the expected bill for the goods and services comes in, enter the bill for the total amount using either the item details grid or category details grid, whichever is appropriate. Enter the amount of the prepayment in the category details grid as a negative amount. The bill will equal the balance owed after deducting the prepayment. Recording the bill will reduce the balance in the asset account. The method mentioned above involves changing the amount of the bill, and that is what you'll see demonstrated below. An alternative way of doing this without altering the bill amount would be to enter the bill for the whole amount, then enter a vendor credit for the amount of the prepayment, which should be applied. When ready, apply the credit on the Pay Bills screen. When should clients use this method? This option will work for vendor prepayments of large amounts, or that remain outstanding for some time. It adheres to generally accepted accounting principles. The advantage of doing it this way is when you look at the bills and applied payments report, you will see the total amount of the bill, the vendor credit, and the bill payment. Alternatively, if you are not entering a bill, perhaps the purchase is COD, enter the expense transaction for the total amount of the purchase and enter the prepayment in the category details grid as a negative amount. Using accounts payable to record a prepayment. One option to record vendor prepayments is to post them to accounts payable, A/P, to decrease the balance, then apply the balance later when the bill arrives for the goods or services. Let's do this now. First, we'll need to make sure that Automatically Apply Bill Payments is selected in Account and Settings. This allows the credit to be applied automatically when you check the bill, as you'll see later. Now we can post the vendor prepayment to accounts payable, A/P. Enter the prepayment by creating a check. In the category column of the category details grid, select the accounts payable, A/P, account. This creates a negative payable. When done, select Save and Close. This prepayment should apply to the bill when it comes in. When the bill arrives, create a new bill. In the amount column, enter the total amount of the bill. Then select Save and Close. Now that both the prepayment and the bill have been entered, in the unpaid bills report we can see the negative amount for the prepayment and the positive amount for the bill in full. The amount owing to this vendor is the total, or net amount of the two. Now it's time to pay the vendor. Select Plus New, then Pay Bills. Select the payment account. Check the box of the bill to pay. When you check the bill, the credit will be applied if Automatically Apply Bill Payments is selected in Account and Settings. Note that QuickBooks Online fills in the total amount of the credit in the Credit Applied column, and the remainder of the bill in the Payment column. Your client can apply all or some of this deposit against the bill. If you're not fully applying the credit, change it to the appropriate amount. If you are applying the credit but not paying the remainder of the bill, clear the payment amount. Then select Save and Close. The bill is now marked and paid. Both the prepayment and the bill no longer appear on the unpaid bills report. That's it. Using an Other Current Asset (OCA) account. Another way to track vendor prepayments is to record them to a Vendor Prepayments Other Current Asset (OCA) account, increasing the balance until your client is ready to pay the final bill. Start by creating an Other Current Asset (OCA) account to track prepayments made to vendors. From the left-hand navigation, select Accounting and then Chart of Accounts. In the Chart of Accounts, select New. In the pop-up window, select Other Current Assets for both the Account Type and Tax Form section drop-downs. In the Name box, enter a name. We call it Vendor Prepayments. Then select Save. Now let's enter the check or expense to the vendor for the prepayment. Select Plus New and then Check. Populate the form with the payee, bank account, or payment date of the prepayment. For the category, select the Vendor Prepayments account. Add a note in the description field. Then add the amount of the prepayment. Next, select Save and Close. Later, when the total bill arrives, we'll enter it to reflect the amount of the prepayment received. Select Plus New and then Bill. Populate the bill with the vendor, bill date, due date, and bill number. In the category box, select the Vendor Prepayments account. In the amount box, enter the prepayment as a negative value posting to the Vendor Prepayments account. Add a note in the description field. In the item details grid, add the items from the order adding up to the total amount. Notice that the bill automatically deducts the prepayment and only shows the net amount owed. Finally, select Save and Close. Now you can pay the bill as you normally would. Job done! Recording a vendor prepayment without altering the bill amount. You can also record vendor prepayments without altering the bill amount by entering the bill for the whole amount, and then entering a vendor credit for the prepayment amount. To do this, use either the Other Current Asset Vendor Prepayment account, or a product/service item that maps to that account. When you're ready, apply the credit on the Pay Bills screen. The advantage of this method is that clients see the total amount of the bill, the vendor credit, and the bill payment when they look at the bills and applied payments report. Reconciling and running reports. Clients can run a report to view any existing prepayments in QuickBooks Online. The process is similar to the one used with customer retainers. It involves reconciling the account used for the vendor deposits and prepayments, and then using a filter in the report. Select each heading to find out more. Step 1. Reconcile the account. Before your clients can run the report, they need to reconcile the balance sheet account to which they posted the vendor prepayment transactions. When reconciling the account, enter its ending balance as 0, regardless of its actual balance. You should recommend that your clients reconcile the account at least once per month to clear out any prepayments that have been fully applied. What if the client makes a vendor prepayment in small installments? If a client has a large amount posted to a vendor prepayments account but pays in small installments, the transactions won't clear until the prepayment is fully applied. The client can then clear the bill against the installments. Step 2. Run a filtered report. To track the open vendor prepayments, you can run a transaction detail report for the vendor prepayment account and customize it as follows. Open a balance sheet and look for the vendor prepayments account. Select the balance on the vendor prepayments account to open a detailed report. Customize the report as follows. Change the dates to all dates. Under rows/columns, choose to group by vendor. Also, select Change Columns and remove any unnecessary columns. Under Filter, select the Cleared filter and choose Uncleared in the drop-down. Under Header/Footer, change the report title to Vendor Prepayments. Run the report. Save the customization, so you don't have to recreate the report each time you or your client wants to look at open balances. There is one more step to make this report effective. At the moment, this report shows all vendor prepayments, even those with a 0 balance. To get the report to show just open prepayments, reconcile the account on a regular basis. To do this, select Accounting in the left-hand navigation, then Reconcile. In the Account drop-down, select Vendor Prepayments. The beginning balance should be 0. For the ending balance, enter $0 regardless of the balance on the balance sheet for this account. Enter the reconciliation ending date, typically done monthly, so enter the last day of the month. Select Start Reconciling. Select the Pay header to sort by pay. Mark any prepayments that have been fully used, i.e., the full amount of the retainer has been applied, as cleared. One half will show in the payment column and the other half in the charge column. When all the fully used vendor prepayments are cleared, and the difference is 0, select Finish Now. Note, only do this when the difference is 0. Because you customized the vendor prepayments report by adding a filter for uncleared status, when you run the customized report, it will only show open prepayments. Pro Advisor Tip. Clients who use an asset account to track vendor prepayments can set a schedule to email this report on a regular basis to those in A/P so they can keep on top of vendor prepayments. Summing up. Learning outcomes. Well done. In this lesson, we covered handling vendor prepayments and deposits in QuickBooks Online. Knowledge recap. You are now in a good position to advise clients on how to track payments they make to vendors for deposits or prepayments, using either accounts payable or an asset account. Next steps. This is the last lessons in this subject. Navigate back to the personalized training page to pick your next lesson.